I have a great topic for you today. Sobriety saved me, but can it save my marriage? Divorce isn't necessarily caused by active addiction. Sometimes recovery itself changes a relationship so dramatically that the marriage has to change. This is Ellen Stewart, Pushy Broad from the Bronx. Welcome to Recovery Recharged. Let's dive right in. I might have a little friend accompanying me today. I'm going to say hi to Twyla, who's sitting here practically in my lap, and she's very concerned about this topic, and she's going to let me finish this podcast, I hope. Okay, so let's move on. I want to talk to you about what happens in a marriage when one person changes through recovery. How does that work? And how do you shape your relationship around this new person that you are becoming? So we're going to straight talk it today, and Emily's going to give me some questions about the important stuff that you have been asking me about whether or not recovery can make or break a relationship. Good morning, Emily. Give me the first question.
Good morning. First question is, we usually think addiction destroys relationships, but can getting sober also reveal that a marriage is no longer working?
The big answer to that is yes, absolutely. Active addiction can hide or overshadow problems that have existed in relationships for years. But then what happens? The alcohol and the drugs get removed. So both people can see the relationship much more clearly. It's like parting the shadows, clearing the skies. Sobriety doesn't necessarily create the problems. I need you to understand that. But it can expose problems that are already there. And realize many people may start drinking during a relationship, which means the relationship itself may have some serious problems. So when the drinking stops, the problems don't. That means you have to deal with it. Also, recovery can force us to look at our relationships with the same honesty that applies to learning about ourselves. The one thing we talk about in recovery is honesty, 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 honesty with ourselves, honesty with our feelings, honesty with our actions and behaviors. So once you get honest with yourself, you got to be honest about the relationship. And you got to be honest to the person that you're in the relationship with. Emily, next question.
Why can getting sober change the way we see our spouse or partner?
It's all about recovery. Recovery is a good thing. Recovery means change. Recovery also means changes in perspective. It's like you sit at a big kitchen table, right? And every single night for God knows how many years or months or whatever, you sit at the same seat at the table all the time. Now you're in recovery. So now I'm asking you to shift a seat over. Look at the table from a different perspective, or move to the other side of the table. Recovery changes perspective. You see things differently. You begin to identify your needs, your values, your boundaries, and your expectations differently. Your behaviors that you once tolerated before in yourself and others now become unacceptable because you're not influenced by a mood altering substance that is allowing you to escape and basically not care at all about what behaviors were irritating you in the past. You numbed it with a mood altering substance, and now you don't have that excuse, gratefully. So now you may recognize things like codependency or poor communication or resentment or anger or control or emotional disconnection, whereas before you just shoved it under the rug. And sometimes the difficult realization is, I love this person, but I'm not sure that this relationship fits the person that I am becoming. That's a scary thing, isn't it? I see that all the time in the coaching that I do, because recovery isn't just about picking up a drink or a drug. It's about living life in a whole new, different, clarified way. So if you're interested in that, go to pushybroadfromthebronx.com, sign up for a free consultation, and we will begin your journey in recovery, true recovery. Emily, next question.
Can one person's recovery disrupt the entire balance of a marriage?
Absolutely. Relationships develop patterns and they develop roles, and people are used to fitting into that pattern and that role. It's like watching the same TV program over and over again. It has a sense of predictability, right or wrong, good behavior, bad behavior, healthy behavior, unhealthy behavior. It's still a pattern of events and characteristics and moods and behaviors. One person may have been the caretaker or the rescuer or the controller or the peacemaker or the responsible one or the energetic one or the doer as opposed to the person that watches that person do. There are roles that people assume in a relationship, so they fit like puzzle pieces. The person with the addiction may have been dependent or unpredictable or emotionally unavailable. But sobriety changes those roles. It's like moving around the mahjong tiles or mixing the deck and finding new ways. When sobriety changes those roles, the entire relationship has to adjust. Whatever, hopefully for good reasons and under good circumstances. But even positive change can be threatening when a couple has lived the same dynamic for years. Understandably, there's a new person in the mix because the person that's sober is basically becoming a new person. And they're the first person to tell you that. So, how are you adjusting to this new person? I have couples that have been married for 30 and 40 years and only knew each other under the influence of mood altering substances. Once those substances have dissipated, people are looking at each other for the first time saying, is this the person that I love? Because this certainly isn't the person that I married. Can I now begin to love a new person? It's amazing and exciting and certainly scary at the same time. Emily, next question.
Why isn't getting sober enough to automatically make a marriage better?
If that were only the case, it wouldn't be wonderful to just sprinkle magic dust and say, poof, right? Or like in that old time TV show Bewitched, you could twitch your nose and everything would be euphoria. Everything would be a Garden of Eden when it comes to relationships. But because sobriety removes substance, it doesn't automatically remove relationship problems. Communication problems may still exist, resentments, anger. Oh my God, all the bent up anger and resentment that happens when your partner says, you did this to me all that time, and I was angry for everything that must have happened, and I don't trust you. I have to regain trust. I have to regain intimacy because I don't know if I'm attracted to you anymore. Understand this. Recovery isn't simply about stopping something. Okay? Big deal, big thing. Listen again. Recovery isn't about stopping something only, not only stopping picking up a drink or a drug. It's about learning a different way of living and relating to people. That's a big deal. Every single thing, every single moment, we're learning new ways. And because I am 40 years clean and sober, I know that those things are not only possible, but they turn into the best life ever. And that could easily be with a couple that is trying to repair their relationship or their marriage. The outcomes are hopeful if you understand these things. Emily, next question.
Is it common for someone in recovery to start questioning their marriage?
You're questioning your marriage when you're not in recovery. The person that you're with, looking at you drinking all the time or drugging all the time, is constantly questioning the marriage. What did I do? How did I get here? How am I going to get through this? It certainly can happen. Recovery often brings enormous self examination, and to the person who is your partner, a tremendous amount of self examination. People ask all the time, who am I? What do I want? What do I value? Who is this person that I'm now married to? Naturally, the examination extends to relationships. Why wouldn't it? But the important thing is to assume that questioning the marriage does not automatically mean that the marriage or the relationship will end. You need to be able to have a healthy discussion without accusatory reactions, without being reactive or self conscious or emotionally affected by what the questioning is all about. To see it objectively and to understand that it's normal to question. Now that you're healthy and now that you understand that you're looking at things differently as a person in recovery, it is so normal. In fact, you should be questioning every decision you make so that you can do it in good behavioral health, in honesty, and knowing that you are authentically you in recovery. Questions can become a topic of opportunity to see what actually needs to change. Emily, next question.
How can setting healthy boundaries in recovery create conflict with a spouse?
You know, the one thing that I talk to my clients out that are in early recovery, and I talk to the partners of those people as well, is this is what the partners have to understand. When you're in recovery, we all know you're speaking a different language that you have never spoken before. Honesty, trust, maybe you're speaking the words of 12-step recovery, so you're talking about letting go, and you're talking about a power greater than yourself, and you're talking about 12 steps, and you're talking a language that your partner does not understand. And if they're not doing some work around it themselves, they can certainly feel like you're speaking one language and they're speaking another. So that automatically seems to create a distance, a boundary. Also, you may be actively working on your recovery and you decide that you are no longer the same person that you were before. So maybe you're not a people pleaser, and maybe you don't want to say yes to everything that comes your way. And maybe you don't want to be put in difficult situations that people are trying to put you in, like, let's go to this summer party, or let's go out to dinner here, or let's go to this bar, or let's do this thing that normally you said okay to before, but now you don't want to say yes to. So it seems like you're the one that's setting boundaries. And some people are upset about that. But I need you to understand that your boundaries are healthy. And your boundaries mean your survival. Because the most important thing in your life, and I know this is hard to hear, but I need you to hear it. The most important thing in your life is your recovery. Yes, before partners, before spouse, before children, before work, before everything. Because if you don't have your recovery, you're not going to have any of those things. So, yes, setting healthy boundaries. And yes, it's going to conflict with your partner. Maybe they'll be grateful. But you can also send your partner so that I can coach them. So have them understand what someone in recovery is trying to do in a healthy way. So if your spouse is accustomed to the old dynamic, they may see those boundaries as rejection or selfishness, and we're going to teach them differently. Healthy boundaries aren't punishment. They define what you will and you won't participate in, maybe for the first time in your life. Emily, next question.
What happens when one person changes through recovery, but the other person doesn't?
Oh boy. Big challenge. Big challenge. First of all, the person who is in recovery has a right to a non-substance house, meaning the person who is in recovery that goes home to their security, because home should be their security, has a right to a substance-free household. It's like when you go on a diet, you don't want to come back to the house that's filled with cake, candy, and ice cream, so that you're constantly watching those triggers form in front of you and finding it difficult every single time to overcome the hurdle of not picking up a drink or a drug. That's a big deal. Now, I understand in families with children and families with roommates and all this stuff, sometimes that's not possible at all. I get it. However, the people that are not in recovery, or the people that want to respect the person that is trying desperately to stay away from mood altering substances, those people should restrict their intake, hide their stuff so that it is not out in the open for someone to feel triggered by. Be considerate, be kind, go smoke outside. Go drink at a bar. Don't bring it back to the house. Don't fill the refrigerator with beer and mocktails or White Claws or whatever is there for you. Don't do it. Nobody's saying you can't drink or drug, but you don't have to do it in the house of the person in recovery trying very hard to stay clean and sober. And understand that the person who is recovering may no longer want to participate in old behaviors or old situations. They may not want to sit around and shoot the breeze while you're smoking a joint. They may not want to do that. They may not want to sit around where you're sitting there with a beer. Maybe they'll sit with a non-alcoholic beer, which is great, but they may not be able to do it. So if you have liquor bottles around the house, or you have stuff that is a trigger, be considerate and be kind. The person in recovery wants to be able to grow with you and not begin to grow apart. And I need you to take that in. Emily, next question.
Can a spouse actually feel threatened by their partner's recovery?
All the time. All the time. For so many different reasons. First of all, your partner or your spouse may be drinking or drugging and may not have come to grips with the fact that that's a problem for them too, because they were so focused on their loved one that maybe had a disease a little bit more prevalent than theirs, that they didn't notice their own pitfalls when it came to addiction or the possibility of abuse. So when a partner sees another partner in recovery and doing the right thing and being honest and feeling great, because you do after a while feel better than you've ever felt before, and you're more productive in recovery and you're more energetic and you're just happier in general with life, that could be very threatening to a partner that is not feeling those things and feeling resentful, because maybe they're going through stuff themselves, or maybe they're saying to themselves, how dare you reap the rewards of this when I suffered through you all those years? I get it. I hurt loved ones too. The spouse also may have built an identity around rescuing or taking care of you. That's codependence. If I spent my life taking care of my partner who was in active addiction and then that person got well, I would begin to question who I am and what is my purpose. Codependency is an addiction to relationships, to the fact that my life revolves around the emotions and the taking care of other people. Caretaking instead of caring. I can help you with that. Pushy broad from the Bronx. Let's talk about it. Suddenly, your partner is more independent. Now, your partner also in recovery is attending meetings, is building friendships, establishing boundaries, developing new goals. And you're thinking at looking at your partner, where do I fit into this new life? And that fear needs to be discussed with your partner and discussed with a coach rather than be ignored. Remember, if you want the relationship to work, partners have to grow together, not apart. Emily, next question.
How do you distinguish between wanting a divorce and simply experiencing emotional upheaval of early recovery?
Oh, that's a big question. I need you to understand something. Early recovery can involve intense emotional changes. Intense. In recovery, in the traditional 12 steps, there's one big expression that I need you to heed. Number one, no major change in the first year. Now, I know that's very hard and it doesn't always work, and I get it. But the idea of not doing major changes, which means the major things, right? Major things, a marriage, a divorce, a birth, a move, a new job, all of the big things that don't come across every single day. And I know life goes on, and I know we always can't do this. But I need you to understand that there is another principle here you have to adhere to. Being in recovery, we now know that we do not make decisions in anger or in haste, which basically is good advice for everybody, don't you think? Especially in early recovery. The feelings that were numbed for years can suddenly be overwhelming. The stuff that's going on for you can suddenly be overwhelming. You could finally now have a sense of clarity, but what's coming at you is not a calm, well thought out, behavioral, healthy approach in the beginning. In the beginning, it's anger and sadness and regret and excitement and dissatisfaction and all of this stuff, which is going to feel much more intense in the beginning. And unless you have safety concerns in the relationship, safety concerns for your well being and your mental well being and your physical well being, I need you to give yourself time, professional support, maybe in the form of the Pushy Broad recovery coach, and perspective before making irreversible decisions. And that is probably the most valuable thing I can tell you today. Not every uncomfortable feeling requires an immediate life-changing decision. At minimum, I need you to sleep on it for a few days and give me a call. Emily, what else have you got?
What if someone realizes in recovery that they stayed married because they were afraid to be alone?
Well, that's a podcast in itself, so let me break it down for you in the easy way. That realization can be painful, but incredibly important. Addiction and unhealthy relationships can both become ways of avoiding ourselves. We know that. We escape. We escape into our own la la land of I'll worry about it tomorrow. Recovery asks us to become comfortable with who we are without constantly escaping. That's what that's about. Fear of loneliness isn't necessarily a reason to remain in an unhealthy marriage. And working as a recovery coach and an empowerment coach, I'm going to talk to you about how fear of loneliness is not the same as being alone and loving it. Loneliness also isn't necessarily a reason to leave a relationship, but are you choosing the relationship, or you are simply afraid to live a life without it? That's two different things and has nothing to do with that particular relationship at all. So that's what we work on in recovery. Remember, not only about picking up a drink or a drug, but deciding about your life one day at a time. Emily, what else have we got?
Can divorce ever become part of someone's recovery rather than a failure of recovery?
First of all, I never think of divorce as a failure. Okay. I've been through two of them and they were lessons to be learned. And when I was in those relationships, I gave it to the best of my ability, the best job I could do, whatever it was, and however I was. For the first one, I was not sober. And for the second one, I was. And they both ended in divorce. So it's not an indication or not exactly always a precursor to making or breaking a relationship. Divorce is not a success or a failure. It's just what is. It's an experience that helps you grow. And there are two people that make divorce, like there are two people that make the relationship. Both have equally experienced what was done or wasn't done to make the situation a good one or a bad one. The idea is, are you behaviorally healthy afterwards? And are you growing in a good way after that comes about? Recovery is coming from a place where you're making decisions from clarity rather than fear, intoxication, resentment, or impulsivity. The goal isn't necessarily to save the marriage or the partnership or to end it. That's not what this is about. The goal is to behaviorally healthy enough to see yourself and your relationship clearly. Whatever the outcome is then up to you. Every single person that comes to me with a relationship question, I say the same thing. It's not my job to tell you whether to stay or to go. And it's not your job either. It's your job to make emotionally healthy recovery decisions. And then the rest will automatically work itself out. I guarantee it. I promise you. 22 years of being in behavioral health and 15 years in private practice indicates those things to me in a very big way. Stop worrying about the relationship, concentrate on yourself, and concentrate on making good, sound, mentally healthy, honest, trustworthy decisions for yourself, and the rest will simply take care of itself. I am thrilled to bring you this topic today. I really hope that you have gotten something out of it. And if you want to continue this conversation, then write me at ellen@pushybroadfromthebronx.com. This is Ellen Stewart saying thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
She's the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York. Follow her voice, a straight dog is nice. She's a pushy broad from the Bronx, oh yeah. Don't be surprised if you wanna listen twice. Make decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the pushy broad from